Hello, I'm Dr Brun. If you haven't met me before, I'm one of the GPs at Elmham Surgery. I'd like to talk to you briefly about anxiety, what it is, why it happens, and what we can do about it. It's helpful to understand anxiety, as it can have a big impact on our physical and mental well-being if not addressed. Anxiety is a normal reaction that we all experience at some point. For example, it's quite normal to feel anxious before an interview or a hospital appointment. Sometimes feeling anxious can be helpful and enable us to perform well. However, it becomes a problem when it persists on a regular or daily basis and affects our daily lives. Anxiety can cause a variety of unpleasant feelings and thoughts. Many people worry excessively about bad things happening. They imagine the worst. They may panic. They may feel forgetful, irritable, struggle to relax, tired, have poor sleep. Some people feel they can't switch off, are on edge, have a racing mind. Some people feel they're losing their mind or cracking up. Some people feel they're going to faint or lose control. These are all quite common things that people experience with anxiety. Some people also get physical symptoms of anxiety, such as headaches, poor sleep, dizziness, palpitations of their heart racing, tense muscles, tummy problems, and body pain. There are various different forms of anxiety. Health anxiety, which is excessively worrying about our health and that we may have an underlying serious illness. Social anxiety, which is a fear of social situations like meeting people or speaking in public. Generalised anxiety disorder, where people feel anxious most of the time. And panic disorder, where frequent panic attacks occur. There are many common causes of anxiety. These include our personality. Some people have an anxious personality type and have developed a tendency to worry. For others, it may be bad experiences in life, stressful life events such as moving house, family breakdown or bereavement, financial worries, health worries, work pressures. For others, they may be predisposed to it, as anxiety has a tendency to run in families. So why do we have these feelings? Well, as I said, these are normal emotions. They were originally there to protect us from harm. We sometimes call this the flight, fright, and fight response, or the body's alarm system. It kicks in when something threatens us. Imagine how you'd feel walking down a back alley in the dark, alone, and you hear footsteps behind you. That reaction you feel, your heart racing, your muscles tensing, your breathing quickening. That enables you to suddenly run fast, and it may be helpful in those rare circumstances, but not all day, every day. The pressures that we face on a regular basis can't usually be helped by this natural response we have. We can't fight or flee from debt, deadlines, stressful life events, illness. The physical symptoms of anxiety can also make us think there's something physically wrong with us, but they're not dangerous and are in fact quite common. However, the long-term effects of daily unchecked stress and anxiety can indeed lead to long-term health problems, such as high blood pressure, heart disease, strokes even, stomach ulcers, to name just a few. Anxiety can go on and can worsen throughout life if not addressed. We can get into the habit of worrying and feeling anxious. Sometimes certain circumstances or situations can trigger our anxiety. The feelings can quickly cause physical sensations that makes us think something must be wrong, and this can worsen the fear and worry, and so everything worsens. This is called the anxiety cycle, and it tends to spiral, sometimes out of control. A natural reaction to avoid this anxiety cycle is to avoid the places or circumstances that trigger it. But unfortunately, this ends up worsening the problem as well as really restricting our lives. And this is what can ultimately lead people to become isolated, avoiding work, sometimes school in children, and maybe even leaving their house. While we can't always switch off life's stresses or take a pill to cure anxiety, it's not a disease that can be treated. There are many ways of helping ourselves and lessening the effects of anxiety on us. We'll start with the simple but important ones, which we can all do to help ourselves. A healthy, balanced diet, good sleep, and some regular exercise are helpful. Exercise. So we know physical activity releases endorphins. And what are endorphins? Well, they're sometimes called nature's happy hormones. They improve our mood and reduce anxiety. They can also help sleep. Healthy lifestyle choices, including thinking about how much alcohol and caffeine we have, are important. Often people with anxiety or stress use alcohol and caffeine to help them cope, perform, or relax. Sadly, neither are very helpful. Caffeine can actually mimic some of the physical sensations of anxiety, like a tremor, rapid heartbeat, sweating. Can also make us feel on edge or jumpy, and so can worsen anxiety. Alcohol can affect our brain chemicals, which actually worsens our mood and heightens anxiety. And interestingly, sugar can have a similar effect on some people to caffeine, so it's best avoided in excess. Time management is important and can help prevent us from feeling overwhelmed. For some people, this means perhaps writing down a to-do list and important tasks, as well as carving out a bit of time each day for ourselves, for a short walk, time of relaxation, a hobby, some exercise, or to see a trusted, supportive friend can really help. We've all heard and know the harmful effects of social media and excessive screen time on our mental health and sleep, so it's also important to keep these in check too. Because anxiety has a strong effect on our bodies, like I've already mentioned, another very helpful tool is to practice ways to relax the body. This can be in the form of controlled breathing exercises, relaxation exercises, and some deep muscle relaxation exercises. There's a bit more information about these at the end of the talk on the next slide. You may have heard of mindfulness. This is a very simple but powerful tool that can help us to gently shift our focus away from our own anxious thoughts and instead on what's happening in the here and now. Here's a very simple here's a very simple example. Imagine you're feeling very anxious. All sorts of anxious thoughts are in your mind, perhaps ones that you get recurrently. Suddenly the doorbell rings. The postman is there. He needs some directions. You chat to him briefly for a couple of minutes, explain to him exactly where he needs to go. He thanks you and then leaves. Now, I suspect you'd find that during those few minutes that he's with you, your anxiety would lessen. You'd have less anxious thoughts. And that's because your mind is focused on giving him good directions, on talking to him, and so less on the anxious thoughts that naturally seem to pop up. Mindfulness teaches you helpful ways of living in the moment, of noticing and focusing on things around you. This helps keep you living in the moment rather than living in your own anxious mind. There are some simple exercises that can really help to learn this. I'm going to talk more about those in a separate short talk. Keeping a thought diary or a thought record for a couple of weeks to help to identify what our worries are and the effect they have on us is also a very helpful tool in tackling anxiety. We can then look at those thoughts, how they affect us, and start to challenge them, and this helps them to settle. Again, more on this in another talk. There are some really helpful self-help guides that can explain this process in more detail, which I've listed at the end. I won't go into more detail now about these different talking therapies and relaxation talks, but as I said, I've done a separate short talk if you want to learn more about them. For many people, they may need some extra support or help in addition to these more straightforward self-help tools. A lot of people benefit from some talking therapy. This is one of the many services offered by the Wellbeing service, which you can self-refer to. The details are at the end of this talk. People sometimes ask us about medication for anxiety. As I said, anxiety is not an illness and it can't be cured with a tablet. And for many people, the various techniques and support I've mentioned are all that's needed. But for some people with more long-standing or severe anxiety, particularly if they have other mood problems as well, we do sometimes use medication, such as antidepressants, alongside the steps I've mentioned above. So have a look at the next slide, which has got information on how you can self-refer to wellbeing, along with some self-help leaflets, apps and other websites to guide you. Goodbye.